Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here, and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today I'm taking a look at this, the Aichi Type 99 in Pearl Harbor colours from Mistercraft. So join me as I get stuck inside the box and see what this one is like. Yeah, I don't know why I keep doing it to myself, but I kind of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Mistercraft. Like, I love that they make such strange subjects sometimes, but I also hate that I keep buying them. Right, so on the front, we've got the sort of typical artwork we can expect to see from Mistercraft of one of these aircraft in use in that particular conflict. Over here, left-hand side, it tells us it's 1/72nd scale, and there are 4 roundels, all in Japanese, so I presume there are 4 Japanese paint schemes included. Down the bottom, it says that it's new, but it's Mistercraft, so it's probably new to Mistercraft, but not actually a new kit. You can see that my box has suffered a little bit of a dent, probably from being in the post, but it has also been sat in the stash for a little while, and it is possible that another box has slightly crushed it. But not to matter, I'm sure the parts inside are fine, irregardless. On the thin edge, it tells us it's a skill level 3. I don't really know how Mistercraft do their skill levels, so I don't really know what that means. We have a series 4 code of D05, but we also have an item code of 40055. We have some dimensions here. It indicates that it's 19.5 centimeters long, and the other edge doesn't really feature any other information other than it was an Imperial Japanese Navy carrier dive bomber, which is extra information that we didn't have on the front. On this long edge then, we have that same information and then some other bits and pieces. This is a kit that contains parts for one model, no paint and glue is included, made in Europe, and we have a Poland address down there. We will just turn over to this side as well. We again have our dimensions. We have the length at 194.4 millimeters. That's a strange way of doing it. 142.5 millimeters. That's very specific, isn't it? But what did it say on this end? 19.5. So they've just rounded it up on the end, but on here they've gone a bit overboard. 52 parts apparently included in the kit, and then we have one image. That's quite a nice rendering there of one of them in 1940, but there are no doubt going to be 3 others. So yeah, let's get the box open. There's nothing on the back, but as you can hear, I don't think that the box is quite sized appropriately to hold everything inside the box. So I always struggle with these boxes to get them open. There we go. So there we go. That's it. So no bag in the box, and as you can see, the box is somewhat big. There is empty space in there. This does run the risk of us losing parts and things becoming damaged. Oh, look, so yeah, there we go. Something off the sprue straight away. What we'll do is we'll look at the instructions first, as is normal. One positive point about Mistercraft instructions is that they use color, and that's great. And actually, the information here is about the actual aircraft on the front of the box. So I have had it before where it's been completely different aircraft, but it is actually the information about the actual plane. There should be decals in here. There's one sheet there. Yeah, so we'll have a quick look through. This is an instruction sheet which opens up and keeps going. We have a sprue map on the left hand side, which is always handy to see as it highlights to us where the parts are. It is possible that the parts are not numbered on the sprue, so we may have to refer to this in order to find the correct ones. As we come across, you can see that they've used different shading, little bits of colour, but not a great deal, in order to help us build the aircraft. But we start with our cockpit. There are 2 chairs and a control column. Then we have a rather simple looking engine arrangement, but I think we must have to glue this in at this point if we want it to freely rotate, because otherwise it just won't. Step 3, we come down to here and we are going to be gluing our fuselage halves together and our aircraft, sort of top part, and the machine gun. The wing halves are joined and a pitot tube is installed here. Then we add our fuselage, our canopy. I presume that's the telescopic gun sight, and the engine components, as well as the exhaust. Tail surfaces, a little bit cluttered, but not too bad to follow. And then at this point, landing gear comes in 2 halves. You can see that the wheels aren't separate parts, they're actually just molded into the landing gear sort of legs. And then a bomb on its rack. So this is a bomb rack assembly here. So we must have smaller bombs for under the wings, and then these are larger bombs here, which get glued together. We have our wheels being glued on, air brake components, I presume, sort of air filter or radiator parts, an arrestor hook, and bomb mounts there. And then the cradle for the bombs on the wings, the front of the spinner, and that is it. Interestingly, this image here does show you where the bomb should go, but it also says that the wings can fold. But I don't remember seeing anything about the wings being folded in the instructions. So I think you might have to modify the kit if you want to replicate that, which is a bit strange. But anyway, we'll move on to the back of the instructions, and here are our painting and decal placement instructions printed in full color, which is nice to see. But as always, we need to take this with a pinch of salt. So down here we've got our paint color call outs A, B, C, D, and they've just given you a like it's orange or it's white or it's black. You do have to hunt a little bit because, like here for example, the German and the German and the English is swapped around. Again here, it looks like in some places they've referenced no, not Humbrol, but Revell. These are Revell paint colors, like metallic is 99, rust is 83, but then not in the rest of them. So there's a little bit of inconsistency there. But what do we have? We have 4 paint schemes, and it is one from the aircraft carrier Kaga, one from Shokaku, one from Soyu, and one from Hiryu. So 4 different ones to pick from. This is sort of your generic one by the looks of it, just sort of overall sort of light creamy color with a off black nose. This one has orange fuselage and a sort of white tail. This one has racing flames all over it, but I don't think those are decals. I think you have to paint those. Yeah, no, they're not on the decal sheet. And then this one here has a green fuselage and wings by the looks of it. So 4 interesting paint schemes. I don't know which one I will do. I could potentially be tempted by the orange one. I think that looks interesting, but I will have to see. So I am going to bring the decals out at this point, because we always seem to have a little bit of a problem with the decals. So we have one sheet of Mistercraft decals. There's nothing at the top. It's just empty space. We have our large roundels from the wings. We don't have any spares. So if you make a mistake, it's sort of game over. From my experience, when they're printed on this white sheet, they are quite thin. And when you go to apply them, they run the risk of tearing, which is something I experienced. I did a practice on a Mistercraft F86, and as you can see, that was actually on a blue sheet. That one there, that one's sort of just disintegrated. That's helpful. Don't know where that's gone. But this, the Black Cross was on the white sheet, and that split as I was putting it onto this test piece. So I do have to be careful. I would always kind of recommend putting on some micro scale liquid decal film just to make sure that you don't kind of ruin the decals if you are going to use them. So yeah, just be careful. They may disintegrate when they're being used. I just wish they would include better quality transfers. But looking at this, they are numbered. They aren't always numbered, but these ones seem to be. Number 2 goes on the wing. Number 1 goes on the side, which is these ones here. Number 2 is on the underside as well. S3 is a banding up here. So this actually looks a little bit more better than normal Mistercraft kits that I've seen. They look a little bit more logical. And then we have our sort of tail codes. You need to play a bit hunt the decal on here. And also you can see that the codes here are just the numbers. So you have to cut out the specific number that you want to do because they're not actually like together. I don't know what these ones are for. That one is for that tail there. But BI231, you would think that would be going on like a dark background because it's white, but I can't see it. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's not in there. I can't find it, but That's really weird. Right, so here you can see we've got different tail numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, but then there's a 5 and a 6. So there's different versions, but these decals don't seem to exist, which is odd. So there's different tail numbers for different aircraft types, if you were going to do them. But AII 234 isn't here. There is an AII, but it's red, but there should be a white version as well if you were going to reproduce that, but you can't because you put red on red. Wow, that is interesting. So this is the problem with Mistercraft decals, is they sort of usually, in most of the kits I've seen, annotate a different paint scheme, but you can't necessarily replicate it because it doesn't exist on the decal sheet. But there is this BI231, which is that one, but that's black. So you would do BI231 from here. This is really strange, isn't it? I don't think I have time to sit down and try and figure out exactly what they've done. So I'm just going to move on. But yeah, decals are, you know, the printing is objectionably fine. This looks like our control panel piece, but it's mostly just a blob. There's not really any fine print on it. This text is legible, but this here, there's like sort of like a registration plate mark thing with numbers and things on it, but that's just a blob. It's not very clear. So, you know, take your Mistercraft decals with a massive pinch of salt, because I have experienced problems with them before. And if you want more information on the kind of problems I've had, do take a look at any of my build videos featuring a Mistercraft kit. I do need to add a quick addendum to this video. I just found some of these on the floor. They must have fallen out when I opened the lid. You can see that there was a second part of the decal sheet included, which just contained the blue bands for the sort of fuselage. Again, printing is sort of the same quality, but there's like a little bit of a flick there. So again, just for completeness of the video, these were included, but again, they're to the same sort of standard as the rest of the kit. So that's that. Let's look at the parts then. There was one clear part, which is just loose in the box. As you can see, it's not been very carefully removed from its molding sprue. Plastic feels a little brittle. The canopy lines are raised. They're not massively raised, but they are present. But you can see that the molding is not perfect. There is a little bit of flash, and the plastic isn't as clear as we've seen from other companies, but it looks like it's usable. So that's a win, I suppose, the fact that it's usable. We do have our propeller, which is molded to a reasonable quality, but it has come loose off the sprue. Yeah, plastic is a little bit dense. We have some weird artifacts on the back of this blade here, which you may be able to make out. And then we have our two main plastic sprues, molded in a dark grey plastic. But don't know if the plastic was too hot or if the molding is dirty, but there's discoloration in the plastic. Yeah, strange. So I'll show you over here, for example. Like here, you can see that's on the frame, so that's not a big problem. But it's like it's too hot. It's like it's melted. But it is present on the wing surface here, which is very strange. There is dirt. You can see these dark marks. Like, I've only had this open to look at it. I haven't messed around with this. This is how it's come from the factory. So it's not a particularly clean looking kit. It looks tatty, doesn't it? But yeah, let's talk about this. So the plastic feels a little bit greasy, but it also feels a little grainy. It feels kind of chalky. And annoyingly, you can see on the top of this wing surface, if it'll focus for me, just here is a ejector pin mark, but the ejector pin's on that side. So it's hit it so hard, it's left the mark, it's like indented it on this side. That's a little bit annoying. Sort of attention to detail and clarity. There are little pock marks as well in the plastic, like little dents. There's some there, there's some over here, where it looks as though something maybe has chipped it or chipped the tooling in some way. So when it's been molded, these artifacts are on the inside of the tooling. The detail on here, we have recessed panel lines. They're a little bit chunky, but they are okay. If you wanted to fold your wings, you'd have to cut it along that line, I think. But on the inside, you can see there's a big gap, so swings and roundabouts. There is some flash, and it does look a little crude in the way it's been molded. We have our bombs here. Again, a little bit crude in their design. And our wheels, which are, frustratingly, they're molded into the landing gear legs. But I think if you're careful with your painting, you'll be able to replicate a reasonable representation. Other small details here. That rear machine gun looks very crude. This arrestor hook is like molded onto the sort of sprue gates, which will take a little bit of work to remove and clean up. Yeah, it looks a little bit questionable, doesn't it? We have our fuselage here. Again, molded recessed panel lines, not massively heavy. Some raised detail in a few places. Sort of discoloration of the plastic on the back there, and flash on the bottom. So we've got some flash which will need cleaning up. On the inside, we can see massive ejector pin marks. Absolutely huge. It's going to take a bit of work to clean this up, isn't it? On these detail parts here, you can see ejector pins. It's going to take work. This isn't going to be an easy kit to get looking right. Even on the inside of the, I know it's the inside surface, so you can't see it, but these ejector pins are so proud that I think when I come to join the other wing half, that's going to cause a gap if I don't trim that down. Yeah, so questionable. And then the final sprue, we have our lower wing surface here. The holes for the landing gear are they're just sort of blobs, aren't they? Again, we've got recessed panel lines and details. It's a bit dirty. There are some strange artifacts in the plastic where it looks like the tooling hasn't been particularly well looked after. The little holes for mounting different elements as well are a little bit filled in, so might need clearing out. We have our engine cowling here. Again, recessed panel lines, not terrible, but there is quite a bit of flash. The same with our top of our cockpit, which goes on the fuselage, and the tail surfaces as well. Again, dirty. The detail level is sort of acceptable. I think it would make it look reasonable. It's not the worst detailed kit that I've seen from Mistercraft, but it certainly isn't the best one either. Inside of the fuselage, again, we've just got massive ejector pin marks and some strange molding artifacts. And if we just flip back, there's nothing really to see on this side. If we flip back over, the engine doesn't look too bad, does it? It's giving me like 1970s kind of Airfix vibes. The cowling has a texture on it. Was that typical? If you look, I wonder if it'll focus. The cowling has this weird grainy texture all the way around the outside. It's on the sprues as well. Actually, if I look quite closely, it's on most of the parts. It's a very strange kit, isn't it? Yeah, here, like there's a grainy texture. It is weird. I mean, there are parts of this which you think, oh, it's got recessed panel lines, so it can't be that old. But then you look at other parts and go, well, it looks like it's got the same sort of quality from something from the 70s. So yeah, a bit weird, bit clunky. Quality control is maybe a little bit lacking. But Mistercraft don't technically make their own model kits in the sense that they don't design them themselves. They always seem to rebox other companies. So let's just round up what we had here. We had one medium grey kind of sprue. Molding is a bit tatty. There is sort of discoloration of the plastic. There's dirt molded in. There's flash. There's mold seams. There's some weird textures. The plastic doesn't feel overly greasy, and it is a little bit dense, but it's flexible in places. Yeah, so there was two of those. We had a piece off of the sprue because it was not in a bag and the box is potentially too big. Our clear part is usable, but it's not to the highest quality that we've seen, but it has got these massive sort of lumps of plastic where it's been removed from its individual sprue. We have one set of decals which, although printed to a moderate quality, I do question how well they'll apply to the model given my prior experience with them, but additionally they don't seem to entirely align with the painting and decal placement instructions because these ones here don't seem to have been included, and something that is included is the wrong color. So I don't really know. Would have to take some investigation. Alternatively, if you don't trust these transfers, potentially use the plastic parts and buy some aftermarkets if you can find some. Instructions are generally to the normal format from Mistercraft, and they look to be relatively easy to follow. The bonus, of course, this being printed in color means that I may just use the color reference here and just paint it by eye rather than sort of referring down here. But again, there are some little issues with the instructions, which I think sort of comes down to maybe a lack of research or copy and pasting. All of that, though, does come contained within this box. The artwork on it does look all right, if a little cartoony perhaps, but still I think it encourages people to buy the kit. But yeah, so let's talk about the age of this kit. So to the best of my knowledge, this kit sort of dates from around 2015. I don't think I bought it in 2015. I think I bought it much more recently, maybe in the last couple of years. So it has been around. From what I can tell online, according to ScaleMates, this is not a Mistercraft tooling. It's actually a ZTS plastic tooling, but it dates from 2005. That doesn't feel right. From what we've seen in here, it doesn't feel like a 2005 tooling at all. I mean, granted, yes, we've got recessed panel lines, but there were kits in, the 80s and 90s which had recessed panel lines. It doesn't feel like a model kit from 2005. It feels so much more like something from the 70s or 80s, like at best. It's very strange. Couple that, of course, with the fact that the Mistercraft molding process isn't clearly up to as higher quality as some other companies, given what we've seen in this particular boxing today. But yeah, so if ScaleMates is to believe, the 2005 tooling for this, which is an absolute surprise. So how much are we paying for this? I think when I bought this, it was online and it was super cheap. I think it was like £6. I can't remember for sure, but I feel like it was around that ballpark, which if you can get it for that price, for something to mess about with, perhaps that would be where the value lies. However, I did look on the Mistercraft website. It is out of stock, and this version that I saw on the website did apparently come with like paints and glue as a sort of starter set. I've never experienced those from Mistercraft before. It would be interesting to see them. But that version was retailing for €12.99, which if we convert euros to pounds sterling, that comes out at £10.78 at the time I'm making this video. So let's just round it up and call it £11. So £11 for this kit plus the paint and things that they were also including supposedly in that boxing. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how good the paint is. I don't know how good the glue is. It could just be like poster paint. Let's just consider those as extras and as freebies. £11 for this kit does seem quite a bit of money, doesn't it? Especially what we've seen in the box. Maybe the £6 that I paid for it was a much more fair price, but I would be reluctant to part too much money given what we have seen inside the box today. And on that, I think I'm going to end this video here. Please let me know down in the comments what you thought of my review, what you think of this kit, and if my assessment of it was fair. As always, quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. Massive thanks to these guys on screen. If you'd like to join them or support the channel in other ways, full information is below the video. The best way to support the channel for free, though, is by subscribing with notifications turned on so you never miss an upload. Finally, though, massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.